All right, in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how you can take the files that you created for your first assignment, A1 HTML, and duplicate those to start on your second assignment, which is going to be basic CSS or applying styling to that HTML. So first of all, I'm going to show you, for those of you who are on Mac and Windows, different platforms, I'm going to kind of show you how you can get started, and then after that point, I'm going to go ahead and move just into one platform. But just to get started, first I'll show you real quickly on a Mac, and then I'll show you on Windows really fast. So on a Mac, what I would do, if this is my folder right here, A1 HTML, I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to say duplicate, okay? And it creates a copy. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rename that, and I'm going to call it A2 Basic CSS, like that. Okay, so if you're on Windows, you would just go ahead and, this is a Windows virtual machine that I'm using. So Windows users, look at this window that I'm moving around, okay? So here's your A1, and what you can do is just go ahead and copy and right click on your desktop or wherever it is that you're working from, and click paste, and it'll create a copy. And of course you'll change that to A2 Basic CSS. And this is just a reiteration that this is I'm doing the same thing in Windows here that I'm doing over here in the Mac, okay? And the whole demo is not going to be like this. It's just to kind of help you get started. So for those of you who are in Windows, like if I go ahead and launch my Komodo edit program, you might see something that looks like this, right? And the basic defaults are to go ahead and show these collapsible screens up here. So that shows your left panel that has your files on the left and also projects, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And then this right collapsible panel are for snippets and things. Okay, so and then if we wanted to do the same thing in a Mac, I'm going to just show you that in just a moment. But for Windows users, let's go ahead and complete this process. So if I look on my desktop in my local files, and this is, by the way, going to be the same for a Mac user, but just so you'll know, you'll see here that I've got my A2 Basic CSS. Well, one of the things that I didn't really go over in the last one is how to create a project. So in this one, I'm going to show you how you can actually create a project so that it makes it a little bit simpler whenever you're looking at the stuff that's on the left. So down here under projects, and it might be that the project is like down here, so you can pull it up a little bit. And what you can do here is you can come to the gear icon and say new project, and that's going to ask you where to find your project folder. And so I'm going to go into find it under my C drive, and then we're going to look under users, and you're going to find your user account. All right, mine is admin, yours is going to be called whatever it's called, probably your name or something. And then it's in my desktop. And then I'm going to choose A2 Basic CSS so that it's selected up here. And then for my file name, I'm going to actually call it the same thing, A2 Basic CSS. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a project file, a Komodo project file. Now, what is that? That isn't something that has anything to do with your normal website. Specifically, it has something to do with Komodo Edit. And it remembers, it's sort of like a preference, it remembers that this is a project so that it can organize your files for you. This is not a file that we're about to create that you are going to upload to the server. That's not important. If it happens to be uploaded, whatever, that's fine. But you're not going to like upload it the way you would say, you know, have a PSD file for a Photoshop document or something where everything lives inside that document. It's not like that. This is a file that is being created by Komodo Edit that basically is just sort of like a mapping so that Komodo will remember where you have your project stored. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to hit save, and it's asking me here, hey, you didn't designate a file extension. Do you want to add this file extension? Go ahead and say yes, that's fine. Okay, and so you see what it did is it created your project down here that's called A2 Basic CSS, and then up here it shows you that A2 Basic CSS because now we're using it. And what's really cool is that it has an index of all of your of all of your files for you, or a catalog kind of all your files that are in that project. So now if I ever wanted to open, like, let's say this index file, I could just double click it and boom, it's open for me, okay? Which is pretty cool. And if I ever wanted to, you know, look and see what image file resources I have, I can just open that and so forth. And it will end up showing a whole bunch of files over here once you add more and more files. And the other thing that's kind of cool is that you can click this little file icon right here, okay, and it shows you what your open files are. It says open files 1, because this has a tabbing index where it would create new tabs up here. So anyway, that's kind of a really handy feature. You can go back and forth between open files and the project folder. That is going to be exactly the same on an Apple setup. One thing that is default that's showing up here for this Windows computer setup is it's showing that I can easily collapse that so that I have more space here. In my setup on the Apple version, here I'm going to just get out of the PC section right now. Okay, so that was a virtual machine that I was running. So this is my Mac environment, and I'm going to do exactly what I just did. So for you Mac users, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. So I had this created folder here, and now I can just jump over here and I'm going to open Komodo Edit. And you see that I don't have, in my settings, I don't have those little collapsible sidebars available. There are two things that you could do. You could either go up here to View, and you could say Tabs and Sidebars, and then you could tell it that you want to view places, and that's what this is it's places, like that. That's one option. I'm going to close it. The other thing too is that if you want that available up here, like it was in Windows, you can right-click the toolbar area and go up where it says Customize, and then I can choose my workspace. If you look under workspace, you see that these things are available options, and if I double-click workspace toolbar, it checks it, and then now these options become available, and so I can click on show hide left pane and it pops up here. And if you want bottom pane or right pane, you can have those show up as well. I'll go ahead and do the right pane and I'll say done. Those are the two that I want in my setup. And so now if I want to toggle left, I can see my stuff over here. So let's do like what we did over in Windows, and let's go ahead and create a project. And we're going to say new project, and we'll do exactly the same thing where we go to the desktop, choose our project, and I'm going to save it as A2 basic CSS Komodo project, and it'll save it inside of that folder, and that's fine. It doesn't matter really where you save that. And then you see it does the same thing as it did in the Windows view, where I've got my basic project selected up here now, and you see that there are no open files, and that's fine. If I come over here and I double click my index file, that's one of the advantages of having this, is that you can just launch your project files right from here. And now if I look, you can see it shows me that I've got one open. Okay, so now we're kind of up to speed in both platforms in the same way, and I can toggle that closed, and now I've got a larger viewing area for my assignment. And one thing that you will also notice is that no longer do we have that black launch screen that allows you to do new file from template. I'm going to show you just super quick in both the Windows and the Mac how you can create new files from this point forward. So let's just really quickly launch our Windows screen again. I'm going to actually get my Mac out of the way. And so this is in Windows again. Okay, this is our Windows virtual machine. And if I wanted to show that sidebar right here, all right, we've got this. Now, if I wanted to create a new file, there are a couple of ways that I could do it. One is that I could come up to this hamburger menu and I could say new file, or I could say new, and then new file from template. All right, that's one option. All right. Another option would be if I right click here, I can say new file from template, and it'll automatically want to create it inside of my project. And the thing that we would actually want again is to choose from the web options, And this time it would be a CSS file. And so I'm going to go ahead and create a file called styles.css, and it automatically is going to want to place it in the correct folder because now I'm working inside of a project. So I can say open, and you see it's created that file for me, and now I've got a basic CSS. And the important thing about choosing the right template, of course, is that it will do the proper color coding, so that if I were to do something like this, and it also does the proper hinting, you know, where if I wanted to tell it a text color, you don't have to know this yet, by the way, we could say that the text color is going to be white, but the point is that you can see that it's got the proper color coding because I've chosen the right style sheet format, which is a CSS template. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to just get rid of that really fast, and you can do exactly the same thing. I'm going to get out of here really fast, and I'm going to go back to my Mac version, and we'll do exactly the same thing here. Now, in the Mac, instead of going to a hamburger icon, which doesn't really exist, you can go up to File, and then you can go to New, and then New File from Template here. There's also a shortcut it shows you, by the way, which is Control Command N at the same time. Or you can come over here and right click. And if you don't have your right clicking features enabled, it would be Control Click on a Mac. And you would choose File, New File from Template, just like we did before. And so we'd choose Web and then CSS this time. And again, we're going to do styles.css. And again, it wants to put it in your project folder, which is perfect because it knows that we're inside that project right now. And just like in Windows, it goes ahead and it adds it right here, and it creates that template. And it knows, you see here, it knows that it's a CSS template. Okay, so we're going to move on from here now that we've got an idea of how in both platforms we can set the project up. And so from this point forward, we're going to stop, and then in the next video, we're going to move on and look at how you can actually get started with the styling.